Saturday mornings with the Heidi and Frank Show, and it is my great honor to welcome the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend who we all know and love, Matt Pinfield.
How you doing, everybody? Hey, great to see everyone tonight. Thank you so much for coming out. Welcome to the KLOS Live Stage. I'm Matt Pinfield. Tonight's going to be incredible. I want to tell you, we have the legendary George Thorogood and the Destroyers in the house for you. You know what else is special? It happens to be the 50th anniversary to the day of when they did their first ever live show back in 1973. How great is that? So you're here for something incredibly special tonight. But before we get to that, let's give a thanks to our sponsors.
The KLOS Live Stage, powered by the accident attorneys at SweetJames.com. Premier Coach Auto Collision Group, servicing LA and Ventura County. Tax Relief Advocates, your tax resolution specialists. Sawtooth Musical Instruments. Lighting by Visual Elements. And audio production by Trans Am Entertainment.
All right, everybody. Well, let's not wait any longer. I'm so excited to have him here and to be a part of this. This is an incredible night and event. So without any further ado, please help me welcome to the stage the one, the only, Mr. George Thorogood. Here he is. Yeah. George, so great to see you again.
I can't believe it's really me.
Yeah. All right, George, it's so great to see you.
Well, before we start, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something. I had the pleasure and honor of meeting the great Little Richard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said something very profound to me.
Yeah.
That I've never forgotten. I'm going to share with you people. Shut up.
Yeah. All right. George, great to see you again here. Now, George, it's amazing to me the backstory that it was 50 years ago today. You were at Lane Hall at the University of Delaware, and you and Jeff Simon did your first gig ever as George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Let's talk about that night. You did.
Actually, we weren't. It was just the Destroyers then.
Yeah.
We had to have a... Actually, we didn't have a name yet.
Yeah.
Actually, we didn't. Jeff got us a gig, and I got back from Florida and just, you better be here. Well, we got a gig at Lane Hall, and I thought he said the Union Hall.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool, like
Yeah.
Howling Wolf. And I said, all right. And he said, no, Lane Hall, fool. University of Delaware. And I said, but I don't have an electric guitar. And he said, then get one. So he's to blame.
Yeah, and so you were actually out on the road in Florida. What do you think of that, guys? Is that great? I can hear some screaming back there. George, it's amazing. At that period of time, you were going out and you were like on the road. You had an acoustic guitar. You were doing a bunch of things, but you know, you literally got an electric guitar, and you guys, like I said, did like Chuck Berry.
I've been thinking about it for a while. I mean, we all thought about it after we saw the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah.
We all dreamed of that.
Yeah.
But you do what you can do, or as time goes on. So I picked up an acoustic guitar. I fooled around with it, and I got a little bit of luck. I got a little bit of attention. I worked with some great acts, Sonny Terry, Brownie McGee. I got to work with Robert Lockwood, Hound Dog Taylor. So I made a little bit of noise in New England. I started to get some gigs around college campuses and things like that, small clubs. And my confidence started to build. So yeah. Jeff and I and a friend, we jam. We had one jam, just for fun. And then I split for Florida for another gig. And when I got back in for me, we now had a band.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have an amp, I didn't have a guitar. He said, don't worry about that. We'll get you one, okay?
And you did. And that night you did... you did No Particular Place to Go by Chuck Berry, Madison Blues, great song from the first album that we all love, right? Great song. And you did One Bourbon, One Scotch, and One Beer, I think 3 times. Was it 3 times you ended up doing it?
Well, actually, I started doing that song as a soloist, alone.
Yeah.
And that got me a lot of gigs.
Yeah.
Because it was in 1971. I went into the Greenwich Village, and it was my first chance to see John Lee Hooker.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Now, at that time in the music scene, the blues was getting very big on the East Coast, and people went to see these authentic blues artists. And they sat at the feet of. I went to see them all. I went to see Muddy Waters, Mississippi Fred McDowell. I saw, all these people. The last one I saw was John Lee Hooker, and everyone would sit there like they were in a temple or in a synagogue or something, like silence. You could hear a pin drop, and I said, because they were in reverence. Is that the word? Like reverence, of this blues thing, So I went to see John Lee Hooker. When he played, the dance floor was packed. Everybody was dancing. I said, dancing to the blues? It's not done.
Yeah.
This is sacrilege. You don't do that. Hooker had them all dancing. Yeah. And the song that got them dancing was One Bourbon, One Scotch, and One Beer.
Yeah!
Wait. Yeah. Here's the punchline. And here's where it's at. He did the song Bourbon, Scotch, and Beer. The dance floor was packed, and they were all women.
Yeah!
So I said, hey! And he played it again in his second set. So that stuck in my head.
Yeah.
And then years later, I put that in the back of my head, and I was playing with Brownie McGee and Sonny Terry. Yeah. And they were a solo group, and Brownie did it, and that got me going again. And Sonny Terry did it. He had clubfoot, he had polio, and Sonny Terry was legally blind. It was only two of them.
Yeah.
And Brownie McGee started playing this song, One Bourbon, One Scotch, and One Beer. And the dance floor was again packed, dancing. And they're all women. Hey, give me an electric guitar. Yeah. One bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. Let's go.
I'm going to do it.
Yes.
So
we've been doing it since that day.
Yes, you have. It's amazing. And we're talking about the journey now too, because eventually doing some of these gigs, you guys ended up, on Rounder Records, which was a label that, before you didn't really have the rock and the blues. I mean, you put that label on the map. But tell me about that, because I know that you'd sent your demos to pretty much every label, right? And they didn't understand.
Who didn't?
Right?
Who didn't?
Right.
Well, to the I guess to the defense of other record labels, when we would send demos out to people, of course I wasn't writing any songs in those days, and that's the first thing they look for, originals, because record companies make more money off originals, which I didn't know, and they weren't really interested. And when they listened to the tapes, they just, excuse me, it wasn't so much we got little or no response, because they never saw us live. That was our calling card, and it still is. Yeah. You see, I mean, how did Elvis Presley get a record deal? Yeah. Chicks went crazy.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, right here.
Yeah.
But listening to a tape, it didn't communicate. It didn't get through. I'd sent a tape. We had other people who tried to represent us, and I sent tapes out to people. I wrote a resume, and it just got nowhere. And we were playing this bar, and a man heard us and who knew Rounder Records, and he went and tipped them off and said, "You should check these cats out." And I said, "Well, we will, but we don't have white blues guys from Delaware with this cheap imitation of Mick Jagger on the guitar. That's not what we do." But they were the only label that said maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe. Man asks a girl out for a date. She doesn't say no. She says, "Well, maybe." You don't stop.
Yeah.
You keep going. You keep plugging.
Yeah.
So they took mercy on me.
Yeah.
Week after week and month after month. I said, come on. They were just too nice to say no. Then they did see us play live, and they said, So one of the people went to see us play, was with the record label, and he rushed down to tell a guy who started the record company, and he said, "I just saw this band at Delaware playing at this Veterans Hall, something like that. And they were really rocking. And they were playing this song, One Bourbon, One Scotch, and One Beer. And the dance floor was packed. And they were all women. So we were lucky because the president of the record label was a woman.
Yeah.
So don't tell me I don't know what I'm doing. Got it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And then you guys ended up doing
Look, people, you talk about shows business. What made Valentino?
Yeah.
Women.
Yes.
What made Sinatra?
Women.
What made Elvis Presley?
Women.
What made the Beatles? I just follow the formula. See? There's no mystery to it.
That's amazing. And that great record.
Interview's over.
Yeah. Thank you, George. We'll see you
welcome.
next time. Seriously. George, it's amazing. You know, we are here. We're starting. It's amazing because here we are. It's called Bad All Over the World, 50 Years of Rock. 50 years you've been doing these great shows. You've done over 8,000 gigs. Have you ever stopped to think about doing 8,000 shows?
I don't stop to think about it. Don't stop and think. Don't look in the rearview mirror. Keep going.
Yeah, you got to keep going, which
That's
is
me
great.
anyway.
I think that's amazing. So you got that song out, and radio around the country grabbed a hold of it. Nothing else sounded like One Bourbon, One Scotch, and One Beer on the radio, and it took off. People were just like, who is this guy? Who is this band? And the next thing up on the journey was, you know, getting to play with your heroes. I remember the Rolling Stones, actually. You were opening them in 81. Yeah. So can we talk about that?
I could.
Yes. But will you?
Beg me.
Please. Please, please, please.
Again, that was something that I had seen other bands opening for that act, and that was the band that got me interested in doing this for a living. Yeah. And I'll tell you people why. The three biggest acts, probably the three biggest acts now ever in rock, with the exception of Elvis Presley, are the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Bob Dylan. Okay. And that's who I grew up on, okay? And there's no disrespect to people like Hendrix and Jeff Beck, but they're the three big ones. Let's face it. You got it. You got it? Yep. All right. So I listened to them, and I listened to those three bands. I looked at the Beatles, and I looked at their album cover, and I said, these guys represent freedom. They don't have to go to, they won't get drafted. Yeah. They don't have to cut their hair. They can wear whatever they want. Nobody tells them what to do. Got it? Yeah. They represented freedom. Real freedom, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I listened to Dylan, and I listened to him, and to me, he represented the truth.
Yeah.
He spoke the truth. The truth got through to me, you know.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, you dressed so... Boom, I was gone.
Yeah.
I was gone, just like the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I said, this guy speaks the truth. This one represents freedom. The Rolling Stones, I looked at them, and I remember his first three albums before they did Satisfaction.
Yeah.
And before they did Get Off My Cloud and all their great originals. And I listened to those three albums, and they were doing obscure blues songs. What the Stones gave me heart. They represented hope.
Yeah.
Got it?
Right.
Hope.
Yeah.
Hope can be a very powerful motivator. I said, nobody's going to be. The Beatles' idol was Dylan. Yeah. What does that tell you? Yeah. There's not going to be another guy like that. There's not going to be another Beatles. But the Stones represented hope. And I said, you know something? Check this album cover out. Man, if I could make my hair look like Brian Jones. Yeah. And I looked at the lead singer and I said, you know, this is the only business in the world where a guy who looks like that can become a sex symbol. Yeah. And so they represented hope.
Yeah.
You know, and I clung to that, and I still do.
Yeah, one of the things that's amazing, too, is for rock fans like me, who was a teenager when they heard your first album, you turned us on to a lot of great artists, and, you know, you always said that you didn't want to cover the same old blues songs that everybody else was. Like that's how I found out about a lot of things, because I would see who wrote the song under there, and then I'd search it out. Now, of course, so that was one of the things. But that was you. That's because you, at that period of time, did not want to do things that everybody else was doing.
Well,
so tell me how that happened.
Research about that, Matt. I'll tell you. I listened to the Butterfield Blues Band, John Hammond, who's a genius, Savoy Brown Boogie Band. 10 years after, Can Heat, who I love. I love them. And, of course, the band that should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or I'm going to go down there, I'm going to put a torch to it until the day the Jay Giles Band is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah. Give it up.
Yeah. That's great. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So and I checked out these acts, me just a kid, you know. I looked at this and said, well, what John Lee Hooker songs have they not done?
Yeah.
What Bo Diddley songs have they not done? Now, the pickings were slim then, because the Stones covered just about all of them.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of research, even before I even picked up the guitar, and listened to a lot of Howlin' Wolf, and all the big ones, And I listened to everybody, and I said, nah, as Cheech and Chong would say, nah, Jefferson Airplane already did that.
Yeah.
Nah, Can Heat already did that.
Yeah.
So my calling card was, you blues bands are all the same. I said, yeah, I got a song called Rado and Josephine. You ever heard of it? Even Bo Diddley never heard of it.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Song.
Yeah, exactly. So that was where I was coming from when I met the great Elvin Bishop and John Hammond, of course. I had a couple of songs. They didn't even know these songs. And that's what those guys do for a living. They research great, obscure material and put their stamp on it and make it their own.
Yeah.
So when I ran into those guys, I said, man, I never heard that song. I said, well, you guys forced me to because you guys took every song there was. Yeah. There was none left.
Yeah. And it's amazing because that's why that turned so many people onto it. And those songs are still, to many, your versions are definitive for them. And I think it's
Matt, just back up a little bit. That's very nice of you to say that. But, you know, a great song is a great song is a great song.
Yeah.
Whatever the era is.
Yes.
When was the last time you didn't cry when you heard Somewhere Over the Rainbow?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's a great song.
Yeah.
Great songs are great songs.
Yeah.
So I said, I got to get a hold of Bourbon, Scotch, and Beer before Tom Waits does.
Yeah.
He'll make it a hit. I said, before Dean Martin does. Okay? He'll make it a hit.
Yeah.
You know? And so when they would say, well, George, you know, you made those songs famous. I said, no. Those songs made me famous.
Yeah.
You know, without those songs, who the hell knows who George Thorogood is? You know, I own up to that.
Yeah.
You know?
That's pretty amazing. I love that. You really always pay tribute to your heroes, and I love that, and it's a great thing. George, one of my favorite stories, too, that you told me even on KLOS was, I love the story where, you know, your mom and dad basically, you would hang out at Jeff, your drummer's house a lot, Jeff Simon, who's been with you all these years, these 50 years. But, you know, at one point your parents, I think, wanted you to move out, and they came and they basically told you this story about, hey, man, you look like a rock star, you act like a rock star, and but
get high like a rock star.
Yeah. And but when are you going to do it? So tell everybody that story because I love that.
Well, you know, like I said, you've been kicked out of school at least half a dozen times for walking around and making your hair look like Keith Richards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe some chick will notice me. You know, I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my parents get a little fed up with this a couple years after high school, and they found me. You know, I'm laying on the couch, sleeping off a hangover as usual. Yeah. And they said, "Hey, look, kid." You can't stay here for the rest of your life. You got to do something. I said, yeah. And I fiddled around with a few bands in high school. No big deal. Just a few things. And my old man said, look, kid, my parents were very, very turned on by this British invasion. They were very turned on. Very few families were. They thought it was a really great thing. Like when I played in a band in high school, there were other people in the neighborhood would say, you mean you want your son to play in one of those bands? And my mother would say, well, at least we know where he is. I said, well, that's one good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So they never discouraged me. They got discouraged when I kind of gave it up.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of gave it up, and then they came. Finally, my dad said, look, man, you dress like a rock star. You think you're a rock star. When are you going to go out and be a rock star? Because they're not going to come knocking on the door and say, hey, we want you to hire a band because you look like Steppenwolf. We want you in the band. No, you got to do something. And I said, yeah, ain't that a bitch? And my mom said, George, you have to do this. And I was thinking I was real proud. And she said, because Georgie, you know you can't work. I said, so I became a musician out of default.
Yeah.
So here I am.
And it worked out.
Mom
and
Dad.
Rest
in peace.
I love that they were that supportive. It's great. Let's talk about what's going on now. It's incredible. You've been through all these different things where you've done 50 states, 50 dates, early on. And, we talked about the 8,000 shows. But this year coming up is going to be incredible because celebrating that 50th anniversary, I know you don't look back, but you've done so many great, incredible shows over the years.
Well, that's nice and all. The Rolling Stones, there's 60 years on it.
Yeah.
How about that?
Right. Yeah,
How about
exactly.
that?
Yes.
Have a little of that.
Yeah, but I think it's a one thing.
What's Willie doing? Will Nelson is 100 years.
Yeah.
I'm just a kid.
Yeah. So are you looking forward to getting out there with the guys this year? Because it's incredible. You and Jeff,
Am I looking forward to it?
Yeah, are you looking forward to it?
Well, I was doing a gig not too long ago, and a guy came up and said, so are you looking forward to tonight, the plan? How you feeling? You've been doing it for 1,000 years. How do you feel about this? And I said, well, I'll tell you how I feel about it. Tonight I get to go on stage and dress like Jimi Hendrix. I'm going to get paid a lot of money for about 2,000 people. Half of them are women who adore me. No, I hate it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
How do you think I feel?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
Feel great. You love it. I mean, you rock and roll's what
Everybody everybody, including the president, everybody wants to be a rock star. I am one, and I want to be one.
Yeah, you enjoy it. You love it. Exactly.
See?
Yes, 100%. It's great. So, we have some fans out there, George, that want to ask you some questions. So we're going to go to Emo, and we're going to take a few questions. Emo, introduce us to the first person you have right there that wants to ask George Thorogood a question.
All right, we got Ruben from Torrance who's got a question for you, George. What do you want to ask?
Well, what I want to ask George, first of all, I saw you in '81 open up for the Stones, and here's a guy who, it was broad daylight, I think it was 12 in the afternoon, and you came out, no lights, and just blew that place apart. So let me just get that on record.
I thought you
now.
looked familiar.
That's it. That was me. No. So here's my story. Here's my question. I'm also very lucky to have been at the 50th show of that 50 States in 50 Days, and I think it was here in L.A. I don't know if it was a Hollywood Palace or Perkins Palace. Don't remember.
It was in Pasadena.
It was the Perkins Palace.
Pasadena.
Okay, right? Okay.
Perkins Palace.
Perkins Palace. Yep.
I know. I was there.
Yeah, dude. I think Albert Collins opened up for Albert King. Anyway, and I got to jump on stage at the end of the show and strum your guitar, dude, by the way.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, that's why you recognize him, George.
So here's my question. My question is, when you look back on finishing that epic tour, 50 States in 50 Days, and now celebrating your 50 years, what you just talked to Matt about, which of the two ranks higher as the most memorable, like when you think, 10 years from now?
My fondest memory, it's a peak of the whole thing. Where you going, man? Just ask a question. My boy from 50/50. You leaving already?
That's right. A little over.
You say, what show? I've been asked that. What show is your favorite and all that? My favorite show is the next show I do when I walk on stage with the Destroyers behind me and my fans in front of me.
Yeah.
That's the best gig.
Yes, that's great.
Got it? All right.
Yes. That is
Good answer. Don't look back.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for that question. Emo, who do we have now?
All right, we got Mike from Brea. What do you got for George?
All right, 50 long years. I mean, it's been a fantastic journey, touring the whole time. Who are some of your favorite artists that you've toured with, groups or people?
My favorite?
Yep.
Well, it's kind of tough. One artist who influenced me the most that I take on stage with me every night is one guy, my hero. Everybody's hero, but I can't say his name right. It was either Mick Richards or Keith Jagger.
Yeah.
All right? Fantastic. That answer your question?
Yep.
Everybody's hero.
Thank you.
I dig you, man. I dig your shirt, man. It's right. Yeah. You got style,
All right, we got Max from Azusa. What do you want to ask?
George, I just seen you at Yamava, and you rocked it right there, brother. My question is, what was your inspiration for You Talk Too Much?
Autobiography. I figured if I'm going to be a blabbermouth, I'm going to make some money off of it. Yeah. And that's what was the inspiration.
That's incredible. George, that's amazing. One last question, George, too, because they brought up the whole thing with the Stones. How about that night that you were out when you were on the road with the Stones, and Mick told you guys how great he thought the band was, and that night? When you tell everybody about that?
Getting senile, it's just to repeat himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some stories are worth repeating.
Yeah.
I like you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Don't get carried away with it.
Okay.
But I like it. I'll tell you that story.
Yeah.
We're fortunate enough to working with that group.
Yeah.
Now, if you wake up every day and say, tonight, I'm going to get paid to play in front of 80,000 people with the J. Giles Band and the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they'd say, come on, wake up. I said, wake up, I haven't got to sleep yet.
Yeah.
So during that time, the Rolling Stones, as well as Peter Wolf, who's my main squeeze, the geeter with the heater, boss with the hot sauce, making knees freeze, leave every man prepared. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm looking. Wow! I'm looking for love. Got it?
Yes.
All right? Understand?
Yeah.
And we're communicating.
Yeah, we are communicating.
So this is what I was doing in my life every day.
Yeah.
All right? What were you doing?
Yeah.
Never mind. Anyway. So they had this night where the Stones weren't working, and they got us a gig in a place called The Hague.
Yeah.
So they got us a gig, and Ian Stewart, who with Brian Jones started the Rolling Stones back in 62 or 61, and he took a shine to us and was playing piano with us. Bobby Keys also came in, and he was playing with us. So we had Bobby Keys, Ian Stewart, and us. Who shows up at midnight to see us is this guy. I'm going. What does Jackie Gleason say?
Yeah.
Now, this is a famous person. It's not easy for this person to get in a limo and do what he has to do. But he's taken time out of his busy schedule. The most famous singer in the world this side of Elvis Presley. Am I wrong? Okay? Right? Right? With all due respect to Janis Joplin and Jim Morrison, rest in peace, this is the man. And he was coming to see us play, probably to look for some pointers. No, I didn't say that. I had to say it, though. Anyway, he comes to it, and he got up and sang a couple songs with us. Right? Well, it was great. And afterwards, he says to me, and Jeff Simon, who started the band, was sitting there, and he comes up and he says, excuse me, would you and your Jeffrey like to go to a bar and drink beer and talk about music? Hell yeah! And I said, wait a minute, I'll ask him. I'll see if he's busy, okay? Yeah. So I only have one rock and roll story that tops that, and I'll share it with these people, okay? I'll share it with these people. I was fortunate enough to meet the Rolling Stones before I ever saw them play. How many people can say that? I met them before I saw them play. The first thing one of the Rolling Stones ever said to me, the very first thing, one of the Stones walks up to me with our first album, and he says, George, could I please have your autograph? Now, I defy anybody else in my generation to top that story. Yeah. And he hands me the album, the pen, and I go, it's George. Yeah, right. Yeah, George. So after doing it, I just said, it was Charlie Watts, by the way, rest in peace.
Yeah, Charlie Watts.
How do you like that? How do you like that? I said, did you know what just happened to you? All the times you got kicked out of high school, all this shit that happened to you for backing these guys up, people beating you up in gym class. I said, well, can you do me a favor? Can you tell my high school principal to kiss my ass? So I got that going for me, which is nice. Can you dig it? All right? Success is measured in different levels, if you know what I mean. So I'm not the cash that I take to the big one. But that's what I got. So I can go up to other people and say, this man asked for my autograph. Who asked for yours? Yeah. Can I go now?
Yeah. George, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. You know, we really appreciate you coming and making it. Give it up for George Thorogood, everybody. George, man, I enjoy doing this with you. It never gets old because you're always entertaining and great. So we're going to do this. Let's get George and the Destroyers over to the stage to rock the house. And you at home, stand by because you're about to see George Thorogood and the Destroyers live. You ready? Are you ready, everybody? All right. It's coming up.